welcome to Corner Gallery. I'm your host, Romero Starks, and on this show we interview artists that are featured here at Lindenwood in our Boyle Art Gallery. Today I have some students on the show, and for starters, we're going to talk to Marcella Tobar. Marcella, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So Marcella, tell me, what made you decide to pursue art?
Well, since I was a kid, I've always been so interested in art. So my mom and my parents encouraged me to do it because they saw that there was like talent in me.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say maybe inspired that?
Well, I've always been very drawn to like draw what I see or how I feel. Mm-hmm. So my mom used to tell me that instead of doing like letters or stuff like that, I would make drawings for her when she got mad and stuff like that. It was funny.
Gotcha. So what made you decide to pursue art here at Lindenwood?
Well, I was looking for schools when I graduated high school. One of my best friends came here, and she told me about the school, and I started looking into it, and they have a good art program. So I was like, yeah, that seems like a good option, so I applied.
Mm-hmm. And just for curiosity's sake, where are you from, Marcella?
I am from El Salvador.
So Lindenwood is pretty far off the radar for you. Yeah.
Two planes away.
Gotcha. So what would you say is your favorite medium of art? You mentioned you draw a lot.
I do draw a lot. I really, really like watercolor though, and drawing, yeah. But I really don't have a specific medium that I love to do the most. I'm still like trying to search for one so I can like be better at like one specific thing. But I generally like a lot of them.
Got you. So what is your major? Because I'm sure, I don't know much about the art program here at any school, but I'm sure you don't just major in art. There's a specific field. So what is your major?
There's some people that major in art, but mine's more specific. Mine is studio art with emphasis in pre-art therapy. So I'm trying to become an art therapist.
Mm-hmm. So define art therapy for me.
Art therapy is when you use art as a medium to help other people, like mentally, like a psychologist. So I know that most people have heard of music therapy.
Right.
Art therapy, it's kind of the same thing, but instead of using music, you do art. You teach them to do art so they become good at expressing their feelings towards art.
Gotcha. What made you want to get into art therapy, though, as opposed to just doing art professionally or in any other way? What made you want to drive that towards a therapeutic?
Well, back home, I used to like go like on mission trips a lot, and I've always been really drawn to talking to a lot of people, and I always had this personality that cares and wants to like know about them. So my whole life, I was trying to like look for something that like has a mixture of both of them, like helping other people, but also doing something that I love, which is art, which I've done for a long time. So I kind of found these two things that tie together by art therapy. So it was like, yeah, that's the right thing to do.
Gotcha. So did you always kind of have a feeling you wanted to do that? You mentioned you were drawing pictures for your mom. Like when she'd get upset, did you just start off very young as an art therapist? I make people feel good through pictures.
Yeah, actually, maybe I did, because my mom says that when she did like parties in the house, I would sit on front of the house, like in the door, and I would have tiny pictures to give to people when they got in, and everyone would always like react like they would be happy, like they're like, this really weird kid is giving me a picture. It's funny.
That's good, and I think we take for granted how much art can make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
A lot of people think of art as just pictures or paintings, and this just what it is, but they don't really think about how much feeling can be evoked through art, or how soothing it can be, or how therapeutic it can be.
Yeah. There's some people, I've even used it myself, like when I've had rough patches in my life, I usually come to art and I express the way I feel through my art.
Got you. So what, post-graduation, obviously you want to get into art therapy, but do you at all plan to do any freelance artwork for yourself, or?
I mean, to a certain extent, I feel like artists do kind of do some art like by themselves and because of the enjoyment of doing art. I do want to become an art therapist, that's for sure. Let's see how that path goes, because I'm not from here.
Right.
And back home, we actually don't have this as a major. That's why I knew I needed to go overseas, because my probabilities of going back home and doing this specifically are harder than
Right.
if I stay here, if I go somewhere else.
Got you. So, what would you say, where do you get your inspiration for your artwork?
Well, it's really funny because it can go from almost anything. Sometimes you just sit and you start thinking of things that you feel connected to. Sometimes your friends inspire you. Sometimes your family inspire you. Sometimes the situations around you, my country, my life. Sometimes it's just about what's happening at the moment or what you're thinking about.
Got you. When making pieces of art, is that something that you typically, it takes you a couple of days, or you kind of stretch the project out, or do you like to just sit down and grind it out until you can get it done?
Well, it depends. It depends on the day and on the project. Usually, if it's something for the school,
Right.
you have like specific things that you have to do, and then you make them. Sometimes it takes 10 hours. Sometimes it takes more. It depends on how detailed or how specific you want the piece to be. I personally, when it's my own, sometimes I take longer because I like to like do something and then like admire it for a while and then try to work on the stuff that I feel like are missing.
Got you. So with this particular piece, I remember when you were starting on this one here, closest to me, how long as a total project, because there's a third piece that we aren't getting to see, how long as a total project did this take you?
Well, I had a due date, so it took maybe like a week and a half or something like that.
All three pieces?
I wasn't like working on it 24/7,
Right.
but I was investing a lot of my time into doing it. And I think that you can do it in maybe in like 2 sittings and you can complete it, but the fact that we have like other stuff to do, other finals and stuff like that, we are working on stuff and we try to like look for like specific times that we have free to work on it. But it depends. It depends on how fast of a drawer you are, because there's some people that take longer, there's some people that take shorter amount of time. I took a little bit.
Yeah. So with this piece, tell me about it. Because initially this is the only piece I saw and I thought it was just that piece. And then I saw the right side with the eye and then the other side with the heart. So what was this piece about?
Well, this piece, it kind of means that it's like women empowerment. So both sides, both of her arms become into trees because it's supposed to mean like growth. So how you grow in your life. Since I came here, I've found myself to be growing a lot faster than before. Maybe because I'm alone, maybe because I'm in a different country.
Right.
But I feel like as women, we need to be able to empower that sometimes we're going to be in like difficult situations or in a very, very delicate situations. And that's why she's naked, because maybe when we are bare, that's when like we have to learn how to grow. So
how were you able to put such thorough detail in this? Because I mean, like to me, it's amazing. Even just looking at the eyeball, how realistic it comes off. But with the woman in her back, all the different ways the light hits it and reflects off of it, it's just mind-boggling to me. How were you able to do that?
thank you. Well, to be honest, most people ask me like, who is this? And I'm like, it's not specifically anyone. Like I try to like look into different pictures, because I couldn't find a poster that I actually thought that's the right one. So I looked into different ones and I put it all together, try to figure out how to like make it look as realistic as possible without actually having a model. Because I didn't have anyone to pose for me like that.
Yeah, right.
So I just tried my best to like see the pictures and see where like our muscles and everything, like the shadows and the light parts, like where everything goes well.
Got you. And so what did you say the eye and the heart were about? You mentioned the arms growing into branches or growth.
Yeah.
So what is the correlation between the growth and then you have the eye and the heart?
Well, the eye, I have a lot of paintings and drawings in which I include an eye, and it symbolizes God to me specifically. It might symbolize something else to other people, but to me it symbolizes God and how he has looked for me my entire life. And the heart is that sometimes we take decisions based on how we feel and how our heart feels, even though maybe the heart is not the one who we should follow.
Yeah. Got you. So how did it feel for you to be able to feature this piece in the gallery?
I mean, I was very nervous.
Yeah.
I turned in 6 pieces, and out of the 6, they accepted 4. And just actually getting a piece accepted is like a big deal, because a lot of people put in a lot of work in their stuff, and they submitted a lot of things. So I was just like, oh my God, like hopefully it'll happen. So I was excited.
Gotcha. And you won an award for being featured in the gallery, correct?
Yes. I won 1st place with this piece, and then I won 3rd place with a different piece.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel, to be not only acknowledged by having your artwork in the gallery, but to get the satisfaction of not only is this good, but it's award worthy? How did that make you feel?
I was extremely nervous. I called my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I'm really happy that I got like my artwork there. I don't know if I'm going to win anything. I don't feel like I'm going to win anything. I was feeling kind of negative.
Right.
And then like when they said my name, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And my friends were like, I told you so. And I was like, I didn't know it was going to be good enough.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I remember when you were working on this, and I was blown away because I'd never seen you actually draw anything. I knew that you did art classes, but I was like super impressed at how well just done this piece was.
Thank you.
So then to find out that you were featuring work in the exhibit and that it was award based, I was like, what? Marcella might win something. Like, this stuff is really good.
Oh, thank you.
You are welcome.
Yeah.
So how important would you say it is to be able to have your artwork featured?
I mean, it's really important. It doesn't, like, it's something that goes in my resume, and it might help you in the future.
Right.
And then just the fact that some other people out there are able to see your artwork and feel some type of way or understand something from it. It's just like, it's not only yours, it's for other people to see. So it's like extremely important.
Right. So with pieces like this one, for example, obviously it was initially for a class, correct?
Yeah.
So post-class, what do you plan to do with this piece?
I don't know. I was offered, like, a friend of mine wanted to buy it from me.
I'd buy it.
And the thing is, he's from El Salvador, so I was like, I don't know how I can take this back home.
Right.
So for the moment, it's for my own admiration. I might be able to sell it in the future. I would want to, because at the end of the day, I'm going to still be doing a lot of things, so I should just, like, get rid of some. You get attached, though.
Right. So is that something that you're maybe considering doing in the future, not only art therapy, but with some of the work that you create in your own time, maybe selling it?
Yeah, definitely. The idea of having someone that has my artwork maybe in their kitchen, maybe in their room, it's nice. It's nice.
And we only have a couple of minutes left, so my last question to you is, what would you say is probably the most important thing you've learned from art?
I feel like the most important thing I've learned from art is that, like, a lot of people can relate to it even when they're not interested in it. And I really, really like that about it. And that it has helped me, like, express what I go through and the way I feel, and to other people to see.
Gotcha. Well, Marcella, thank you for stopping by. I genuinely appreciate it. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to interview another student about some of the work he had featured in the Boyle Art Gallery. Stay tuned.
Start a story. Adopt at theshelterpetproject.org.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Welcome back to Corner Gallery. If you're just now joining us, I'm the host, Romero Starks, and joining me now is Garrett Hammersley. Garrett, how are you?
Doing good. A little early, but we're here.
Good, good. So Garrett, tell me a little bit about yourself, just to start.
Not from around here. Transferred in. Have a lot of close family that drive me, so it's always nice.
Gotcha. So what drove you into pursuing art?
I have a twin sister who she was always the artist of the family and definitely my role model. So kind of wanted to like mimic what she was doing, and it was just kind of easier to get into like high school art having someone who was already like familiar with all the teachers. So
Right.
getting like comfortable with all of that was really easy.
Got you.
So
So what made you decide to pursue art past just something you like to do and making it a career option?
I was always like pretty decent at every other subject in school, but nothing really kept my attention like art did. And when I got to college, I just kind of realized that was like the only option left, and just decided to keep going, even though my sister kind of stopped doing it. So I felt a little bit liable to keep it going, you
Right.
know, for her and for me a little bit.
Gotcha. So before the show, you mentioned you didn't start off here at Lindenwood. So where did you start, and what made you decide to transfer here?
I went to a school called IUPUI in Indiana, downtown Indianapolis, and it was a lot bigger than this school. Just like I didn't really fit in well. It was, my first time being by myself at a school.
Right.
Because I have two sisters actually, and they've always, gone to the same school as me. But this time I was by myself. Didn't really have any old friends from high school with me, and after a year at that school, I ended up needing to withdraw. And just like after that, things kind of went downhill in Indiana. So that's kind of why I moved here. My mom, she moved over here like 2 years before me. And she started working at SLU, so, it was either Lindenwood or SLU, but
Gotcha.
I think I chose the right fit.
Well, that's good to hear. So what is your major here at Lindenwood? Obviously, I was talking to Marcella, and there's a variety of things you can get into with art. So what is your emphasis with your major?
It's studio art, like Marcella, but with an emphasis in sculpture. I didn't start out that way. I really disliked sculpture, and I realized that it came down to the right teacher.
Right.
Because originally it was all drawing based, but I felt pretty limited by that. You can draw in pencil, charcoal, pastel, but the list isn't very long. So when I looked at sculpture, the teacher here, Jacob Stanley, who he ended up leaving last year, but kept it going. It's just really kind of connected with me. I feel like I can do a lot more with sculpture. It's a lot wider range, a bunch of materials to work with, and it's just I found myself like having an easier time working conceptually with it.
Right. So Garrett, what do you hope to do with your degree once you get done? 'Cause you're wrapping up here this semester, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So what's the plan, man? Moving forward, what are we looking at?
People keep asking me that. I don't know why.
It's $1 million question for college students.
Yeah. After this, just going to submit the works that I have been creating to different galleries, different residencies, trying to just find places to basically pay me to make art,
Gotcha.
as weird as it sounds. And then also applying to different grad schools, because I'm not too sure how to keep it going, and it's kind of difficult right out of undergrad to keep
Right.
it going, to keep doing what you want to do at least. So I feel like pursuing grad school, will give me another 4 years to keep doing what I do, and hopefully one day, have my own studio to work in. That's like the ultimate dream, having that freedom. But I don't know, we'll see.
Got big dreams. I dig it. I dig it. So you mentioned that you like sculpture, which you definitely could have fooled me, 'cause based off of what's behind me, you're a very talented artist on the drawing side of things. So how long would you say it takes you, at least just drawings, how long do those typically take you?
That's the thing, like drawing and sculpture is super, super different. In drawing, a lot of it comes down to planning, like probably the first 5 hours or so. And then it ends up just being like that one night, 10-hour all-nighter session, get the energy drinks flowing, get the music going.
Gotcha.
And with these drawings, the bigger one behind me actually took a shorter amount of time. Probably only about 15 hours. Got kind of limited by the jury show. I did have a lot of freedom with that drawing to start with. But then I was like, man, I really want to get in the jury show because I liked how it was going. And then the other drawing took me probably around 40 hours, which looking back on it, I'm not sure why. But yeah, it's just drawing and sculpture are really different because these are just like one night sessions, and sculpture comes into like just consistent work.
Gotcha. So I'm going to come back to these because first of all, the size of that canvas alone blows my mind. And then the fact that you're like, oh, it took me shorter than this one, which obviously this one has a lot of detail, but man, that looks like it just took, I don't even want to think about it. So what I want to ask you is, as far as sculpture, did you have any sculpture work featured in the gallery?
I did. That main cube in the middle that took up like all the space. It was like 8.5 feet by 8.5 feet. That was also mine. But that was an installation work, so that didn't actually get up until the night before the show, which was definitely a struggle. Had some friends help me with that, because definitely could not have done it by myself.
Right.
And then I had another little table, because I wasn't too sure if that bigger piece was going to get in or if it was too big. So I wanted to, at least have something from my actual major in the show.
Right.
So that's why they were both in there. But I'm really happy that my main cube sculpture got in there.
Good, good. So where do you get the inspiration for, well, first of all, the cube. I mean, it's a huge cube, so I'd like to know the backstory on that first and foremost.
That just came from trying to develop ideas for my senior BFA show. That was actually last week. I ended up installing 3 of those, so it took up like the whole gallery. But as far as inspiration goes, first off, it's just the foundation, the metal working, welding, and stuff like that. That's like where I always end up starting with creating ideas for sculptures, just because that's what made me fall in love with sculpture in the first place. And then last semester, I was working a lot with like string and monofilament or fishing wire. So that was like, the second go-to material. So I was like trying to figure out how can I incorporate both of these materials. So I was like, wow, I want to, experiment with that.
Right.
Which is why that cube, it was like lit from the bottom and the top, and it was interchangeable. So instead of, like having to pull gallery lights and like light it that way, decided to like have my own unique lighting, which made it a lot more interesting and definitely a nice skill to add to my future sculpture works.
So as far as these pieces go, the amount of detail is insane. What was the thought process leading up to creating these?
This first smaller drawing, I was in drawing with Grant Hargate, one of my favorite teachers. Might get extra credit for saying that. But the first project of the year is to do a Dante's Inferno drawing, which is like, the 9 layers of hell.
Right.
And like I had taken his class, you know, a lower level of his class, drawing 2 before that, and same project. But like I never actually finished that drawing, so I felt bad going in drawing 3, having to do the same project. So I just took a completely different spin on this drawing. I made it more figurative, which is what I was more interested in, instead of trying to create like, you know, actual 9 layers receding into the ground or something weird like that.
Right.
So like, you know, this like second layer is lust, which is why I went with 3 females. There's like deceit, gluttony. So that's where like all these different elements came into that drawing. And then for the longest time, tattoo art was always like something I was interested in. That's why my twin sister got into art as well. So I didn't really know how to like mesh that together with academic drawing.
Right.
Until Grant Hargate, the drawing teacher, he kind of gave me the freedom to do like what I wanted to do with drawing. Since, you know, I was a senior and was trying to figure out like what was next. So like that tattoo art style is definitely something I could also get interested in after college. And then this larger drawing, it was done this semester. I was getting like super like involved with my sculptures, and just eventually I just kind of got burnt out and just needed like a week or 2 break, which is why I kind of got into this drawing. And also because I hadn't really done a drawing for Grant like all semester, so I felt bad about that as well. And sculpture has just kind of taught me to just keep getting bigger, which has been really good.
I can see, because that's, as I mentioned, how tall is this kid?
It's my height, actually, a little bit over 6 feet.
Yeah, wow.
Well, I'm not 6 feet, but the drawing is.
Close enough.
Unfortunately.
Close enough.
But so I just kind of kept the similar style going with like the organic lines flowing through, still trying to work those out. And then just exploring more of the female form, just because it's more interesting to me, more organic, more soft.
Right.
So
we've only got a couple minutes here, but one thing I really want to ask you is, how did it feel for you to be able to have your sculptures and your drawings featured in a student gallery?
Well, I had gotten my stuff shown last semester, and then I did another little jury show like outside over the winter. And like jury shows, they're definitely hit or miss sometimes. Like, I don't think I won anything for these drawings, which I'm not worried about, because I was really just focused on sculpture. And that's what I won in last year as well, sculpture, and then first in sculpture as well this year. So like, it's a nice feeling and all. But I mean, like with these drawings, like I just had to, you know, fill in some artworks. But it was really nice having my sculptures win, you know, seeing all that hard work being appreciated.
Well, unfortunately, we ran out of time really quickly. I enjoyed getting to talk with you, Garrett, so thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So that is all for today's episode of Corner Gallery. We hope you all enjoyed it, and stay tuned for another one.